Remarkably, the entire history of the Catholic Church is prefigured by the entire history of Israel in the Old Testament in chronological order. The Church Fathers are part of this amazing story and are prefigured in the Old Testament by the Judges. For a complete video with scriptural references and other source documentation, please refer to our video, Church Fathers Prefigured in the Old Testament. Here is a short summary of the parallels between the Church Fathers and the Judges. After the Israelites were free from slavery in Egypt, they came into the Promised Land, and the Israelites had to face many enemies in their land. At different times and places, their enemies would rise up and oppress them. God commanded the Israelites to kill all their enemies and make no compromises with them, lest Israel start to worship false gods. After the church came out of the Roman persecution and Christianity became legal, the church had to face an onslaught of many heresies that arose. At different times and in different places of the church, influential heresies and heretics would rise up, often oppressing the church. The church could not allow the true faith to be tainted with heresy, and no compromise could be made with heresies or heretics. During the period of the Judges, there was no king yet in Israel. There was no central government and no precedent as to how they should conduct themselves in their new land. The different tribes all did what they thought was best in their own eyes. The judges were raised up as defenders and as examples of how to live and believe. During the period of the Church Fathers, Christian doctrine was largely unestablished, and the various bishops of the world had no precedent on how they should teach about Christ or many other aspects of the faith. Each bishop taught and did what he thought was best. Some of these bishops fell into heresy, which eventually spread and threatened the true faith. The Church Fathers were raised up as defenders of the true faith and as examples of holiness. A cycle persisted in which the Israelites fell into idolatry. Their enemies oppressed them, and a judge was raised up to deliver them. And they lived in a period of peace, only to follow the same cycle all over again. During this process, God allowed them to be opposed by their enemies in order to instill in them a deep desire to firmly possess and sharpen their faith in the Lord and in His laws. A cycle persisted in the time of the Church Fathers, in which a heresy would arise and be anathematized at a council. A time of peace and true belief followed, only to have another heresy arise on the heels of the last one. Church Fathers would arise to combat the heresy, only to have the cycle repeated again. During this process, God allowed the church to be tested by these heresies in order to sharpen Christian doctrine and to be guided by the Holy Spirit to develop the teachings of the Catholic Church. Jephthah made an impetuous vow to God that after his victory, he would sacrifice the first thing that came out of his house. His only child came out first, and he followed through on his vow to God. This left him without any children, and his daughter also bewailed her virginity and that she would never have any children. Because of this, even though Jephthah is still considered a judge, there is a negative connotation connected with him. Origen made an oath to God to remain celibate. He made a hasty decision to castrate himself. Because of this, it was certain that he would never have any children. Even though Origen is considered a church father for the wealth of his teachings, there is a negative connotation associated with him since some of his writings were heretical. In the story of Samson, he killed a lion with his bare hands. Upon his return, he found a beehive inside the lion's mouth, which produced honey. There are at least 3 church fathers that are said to have either a golden mouth or honey tongues: St. Ambrose, St. John Chrysostom, and St. John of Damascus. King Eglon, the Moabite king who was oppressing Israel, died at the hand of the judge Ehud. Ehud buried a sword in his stomach, which caused all his bowels and intestines to come out of his secret parts. Ehud closed the doors, so it seemed like King Eglon was relieving himself in the bathroom. Arianism was oppressing the church and was led by the bishop Arius. Arius stepped into a bathroom in Constantinople to relieve himself when his bowels and organs all came out suddenly. He died on the floor of a public bathroom. After Gideon defeated the Midianites, he made a golden priestly garment as a way to commemorate his victory. After his death, however, Israel took the golden priestly garment and started to worship it instead of using it for its rightful purpose. In the 8th century, a heresy arose in the Byzantine Empire called iconoclasm. Certain abuses were present in which people ascribed almost magical properties to certain icons. However, the Byzantines overreacted by imposing another heresy in which they destroyed all holy images and they emptied their churches of their beauty. In the story of Gideon, God instructed Gideon to watch his many men to see who freely chose to drink out of the water like an animal, and who freely chose to drink with their hands, more like a human. Only 300 men freely chose to drink out of their hands, and they were kept to fight the Midianites. The rest were sent home. To prove to the Israelites that God saves them and not themselves, God won a victory over the Midianites with only 300 men, and he saved Israel from their enemy. The heresy of Pelagianism had the wrong concept of free will and of original sin. The heresy denied that men would act in base and evil ways without the grace of God. Therefore, the heresy argued that man was capable of saving himself by his own actions, and that it was not an act of God.